Right.
So
Cool. Well, welcome to the quarantine version of the Pursuit of Music podcast.
are we
Uh,
recording?
yeah, we're recording. See, that's usually my question.
My turn to ask it. Yes.
Yes, yes.
I'm happy about that.
So this is a brand new setup for us. We're both in our homes. I've got my beautiful recliner in the shot, and Ben, you have your entire closet behind you
Yeah. So if you
with your
ever wonder
laundry
what I'm
basket.
wearing, it's either nice clothes or not so nice clothes.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
haven't worn my nice clothes in a month and a half now, I think.
Isn't it weird?
Yeah, it's a very strange time to be alive. Have you thought in kind of retrospect about what we're gonna say about this time? Whenever 20 years from now, 30 years from now.
Yeah, I think. Well, I mean, I think most of us are going to say we're glad that it's over,
Right.
um, because as much as everyone has always talked about how they would want to work from home or do school from home or do all this from home, I think most people haven't spent this much time at home before, and are probably really tired of it. I think we're as a society realizing that we're more social than we realized.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what that's like with kiddos because you've got two kids and a wife that you're in the house with. I'm having a bad enough time just being by myself.
Right.
So, but the grass is always greener. No matter where you're at, it's always better over there. So, that's kind of what you were talking about whenever you were discussing the fact that we've wanted. I remember whenever we were in the airport, we left for Orlando. We were in Disney over spring break, and while we were in the airport terminal, they made the announcement that we were going to take another week off of school, and all the kids went, yeah, and like screamed and all that kind of stuff. Like it was a whole moment in the airport.
Yeah.
And it was like, careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
the snow day concept. I mean, we've seen the snow day memes where it's like day one, woo, then by day 5, you're like, please just let me go back to school.
Right.
So what's it?
So have any of the kids that you've talked to, um, have they, for the most part, said that they're tired of being home?
Yes, that is every single person except for one, and he shall go nameless. But I'm not surprised at all that he said this. So he's like, no, this is awesome. I wake up at noon every day.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
there'll be
I
more of a
I
train wreck
think all my students have been like that.
where they
Um,
want to go back.
yeah. Yeah. I had a couple students say that, yeah, the very beginning, yeah, school's easy, it's just a few hours of work and then I'm done and then I had the rest of the day.
Yeah.
But then as the weeks go by, I ask, well, how was your week? And the response I get is kind of, well, fine. I haven't really done anything.
At all. Yeah.
Yeah, this is so weird. What do you think you're gonna talk about when you refer to this in the future?
Well, I think it's a testament to the way that I've kind of structured my life, and I always try to stay moving. So it's not abnormal for me to be up in the morning early, out all day until the evening time, because that's just the way that I've chosen to operate my life. I think it's great to have downtime. I read in the evenings. People will watch Netflix. I've started to watch a few Netflix shows because I have so much time. Um, but what I'm going to tell them is that whatever you like, whenever you're working really hard, and especially if you're working towards something valuable, the moment that voice in your brain starts to creep in, like saying, I wish I could just relax, or I wish I could just, take some time off. It's like, okay, well, I think it's good to take some time off, maybe like a day. But back in the day, we had this 2-month period, 3 months, 4 months, 5-month period where time sort of just stood still. Right. I mean, we have UFO sightings and no one really cares. It's like, oh, you have sighting. I don't know where it was, but it's probably over New Mexico. But I just think that, it's going to be a testament to the fact that human beings are here to live with purpose and to create and to socialize in person. Right. Because if socially, if we could just do Zoom meetings all day, then everybody would feel fine. But we need human interaction. We need to laugh in the same room with other people. and we need to have purpose in our life. We need to have forward direction and stuff like that. And this time in history, which is so rare, so rare. I heard this the other day that Highland Park United Methodist Church, this is the first time in over 100 years that they've closed their doors.
Mm.
And just think about what's happened over the last 100 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know. I really want to hear what it's like to have kids in the house.
Well, I have not been bored at all. Not at all. I mean, my students have all been talking about how they're bored and they have nothing to do. And I think that they're kind of a relief to get into a lesson so they can at least have something to do that's not the same old thing. But
by the way, is it true that you are still getting up at 4 o'clock every morning, 4:30 or whatever time you get up?
Yeah, I'm still getting up early in the morning.
Consistency, folks. That's why he's a better trumpet player than you are.
Well, so I'm working. I mean, I'm these are full work days. I mean, I've got a room in the house that I've kind of set aside as my my workspace, and I just go in here, and I honestly have got a little child lock that I put on the door, and I lock myself in. And I'm in here I try to get in here before 6, and I do 2 hours of playing, and I do some computer work. I grab a bowl of cereal, and then I start my lessons at 9 o'clock. And then I'm just working. I've got stuff to do, and I feel very blessed because I've been able to maintain work, and that's not been what other people have experienced.
Yeah,
but,
members that got laid off. So
yeah.
Which, if you out there have anybody who has gotten laid off, we're going to get back to it. Things are looking up. I feel so terribly for those people.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Yeah. So especially, I mean, if you think about people who, just think about the restaurant owner who I've heard people say like, oh, what if you just invested in a restaurant? It doesn't matter if you just invested in a restaurant. If you are a sole owner of a restaurant that has to provide for your family, I don't know what you're doing right now, because the revenue that is being taken away from you right now has got to be just detrimental to your books. And then of course you're laying people off, and it's like, oof, that's tough, man. It's very, very tough.
With a Starbucks, do you know, in a normal 30-day month, do you know how many days they actually pull a profit?
No.
2.
Really?
The other 28 days go to just expenses for maintaining that business. They make profit for 2 days a month. And now start adding in there all this, and they don't have the normal going to work traffic going to buy and grabbing their lattes in the morning, or business meetings, or really anything. I mean, I don't know how you I don't know how you exist. And that's not the Starbucks corporation that's really suffering. That's the franchise owner.
Mm-hmm.
That's the person who put their life savings into opening a coffee shop.
Can you quickly explain what a franchise is in case somebody doesn't know what that is?
Yeah, that's where the individual person buys the business idea from the big company. So, if Ben wanted to open a McDonald's, he would sink a down payment into the McDonald's corporation, and then
approximately millions.
Yeah, and McDonald's would then train him on how to properly operate a McDonald's so that it's a cookie cutter business. So, and the advantage to that is that Ben doesn't need to make it from scratch. It's already been done. There's already a system in place, and he just buys into it. But his burger joint, he owns it. But McDonald's doesn't own it. So that's how franchises work. So anyway, it's a tough time for everyone. Now I know that pizza franchises are doing really good.
Is that right?
Yeah, they're making a killing. And I went to Jersey Mike's, the sandwich shop, and they are just, sandwiches are flying out of there.
Yeah.
So some places are doing really well. Grocery stores, obviously.
Which just goes to show you that economically there are, it's a harsh way to say it, but there are winners and there are losers.
Yep.
I've referenced this a lot because I'm in the middle of Basic Economics by Thomas Sowell, and the people who were in the horse business were really upset when the automobile started to be developed, right?
Yep.
So you can always compare modern day examples to that. but obviously this is kind of unique.
Well, especially because it's temporary, you know, and
Right.
people are trying to decide, do you change what you're doing at all, because it could open up in a month and then you have to change back, and
Right.
so it's
And,
it's
and it's
it's
and
it's really weird.
it's temporary with a question mark reopen date, which makes it,
Right.
I think, even worse. It'd be one thing if
Right.
it was like, hey, if y'all could ride this out till June 1st, then we'll make it. That way, you can start to plan fiscally. But if it's a question mark like it is now, it's just I don't even know. I don't know. So I wouldn't know what to do. I'm blessed because the other company that I work with is still open and thriving. So um, just kind of hopefully the stimulus checks help out a little bit. I know small businesses are being helped, but you had to apply for that thing right
when
when it opened
yeah, when
up.
the first few seconds that was available.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Question:
Yeah.
How you talked about you go into your room
Hmm.
and you're staying busy. I don't think you're watching Netflix shows, are you?
No, actually, I have a huge screen in front of me because it's our media room, but it's off, and it's been off every day.
How do you keep your structure? Like, how do you? I mean, you've always done this because you're self-employed, but how do you keep your structure to your day when all of this is going on?
Yeah, there's one of my favorite speakers out there is a guy named Jordan Peterson, and have you listened to many of Jordan Peterson's stuff?
I know his stuff quite well. My younger brother is like thinks he's basically the second coming.
Yeah,
He is listening to him all the time. I've read the 12 Rules for Life.
yeah, yeah. So Jordan Peterson is an interesting guy. He's really smart, and his stuff is really hard to understand, and so you only understand about half of it.
Have you read Maps of Meaning?
I haven't,
I heard
but I
that.
hear that's really hard.
Yeah.
Um, and that you do understand from Jordan Peterson is life changing. I think, but you have to really sit there and have to try to figure it out.
Right.
But I bring him up because one of the chapters in his book that Ben had said um, is it's one of the 12 rules for life. It says take a room in your house and make it as beautiful as possible. And the idea behind that is that in a world gone mad where you can't control it, try to take something that you can control and make it as good as possible. And so one of the things that I decided very early on that I was going to do is I was going to get up, I was going to shave, I was going to shower, I was going to do these things like brush my teeth. Um, I was going to put myself together in a way that I was ready for the day.
Right.
And if I know that for myself, if I don't do that, then I don't ever get started with my day, and then it's just a train wreck. Um, and so I do
Very
that every day.
very
What's
Jocko.
that?
It's also very Jocko Willink-esque,
Yeah, yeah,
where it's that discipline equals freedom concept, where you have the discipline to do all those things that you just listed, and it's not like a constraint. To me, it's very much like whenever you talk about like the rules in the Bible. They are not meant to hold you down. They are meant to expand your life and allow you to like give you the foundation to live a great life. Right.
right,
Anyway.
right. Well, and with Jocko Willink, um, the first thing they teach you in boot camp is how to make your bed and how to iron your uniform.
Yeah.
And it seems like such a little thing, but they want to start basic and they want to make sure that everything that you do, you're doing well. You're keeping your house in order, your life in order, and you're
Right.
not just existing. Um,
Because it's a what do they call it? It's a ripple effect.
yeah, absolutely.
Knows that so does the next. Which you know, I'm turning 26 this month. You need to buy me a cane if you want for my birthday. That'd be great.
Wow. Wow.
But I'm learning slowly but surely that those concepts and why they're important. Because I did not understand them a year ago, 3 years ago. So now my bed, if you went into my room right now, my bed is made.
Yep.
But anyway,
So, but anyway, I do that. I make sure my day starts correctly, and then I have a to-do list that I make, which is just this big bad, not bad as in like, wow, it's
It's
like
like
Big Bad Wolf, but it's not bad.
it's
It's good.
good, bad.
Yeah, it's a sizable to-do list.
Yes.
And I do it in the most. I have the most complicated to-do list of anyone I know. I and maybe this is good or maybe this is bad, but it's good for me. I put everything I need to do in this to-do list, and so I break everything down into the smallest little steps of a project, and then I put them and I list them out, and then I have this prioritization method that I use.
Okay.
And so I've got 4 different categories that I prioritize things. I do level of urgency, scale of 1 through 5. 5 being most urgent, 1 being least. Due date, 5 being the soonest to do, and 1 being the least.
Okay.
Time of completion. So things that are faster to complete, I have a higher value. And then day that I want to get it done that week. So Monday has a higher value, Friday has a lower value. And
Okay.
I multiply those values together.
This is the most
And
complicated thing I've ever.
yeah, but what that does is that prioritizes my list. So now all I need to do is just start at the top and just go all the way down. And I put everything in there. My practice sessions in there. I put checking email on Monday, posting something for a class on Tuesday. Everything is in there,
Okay.
and that way everything gets done in a
Is it a
week.
physical list or is it a digital list?
I do it on notes on
Yeah.
my computer.
Okay. I have a physical list. I don't know why the satisfaction of crossing things out makes me like
Yeah,
want to party a little bit. So
but I think that's how I've been able to kind of keep my life together, and then I just keep after, and then I try to keep my head situated in an area that I know that we have been very blessed in our household to have, for me to work in a profession that I haven't really missed a beat much.
right.
And so I want to be thankful. I want to be a good steward of that so that I am not wasting what I have. And I think that this is a good time for all of us to be thankful for what we have.
Right, right, and everybody should be thankful for, even if you are the restaurant owner that's in a total rut. You would still be able to find things because you live in the United States of America. Like you still live better than 99% of the world. So, um, gratitude. I can't think of a more important thing to grab a hold of during times like this other than gratitude. It's a great thing to just look out and think, okay, look, I mean, I think that's a good exercise to do. It's just in the moment rather than thinking and worrying about everything, which I feel like you're going to do that inevitably. Just look around you and think, look how many things that I have. Look how many people I know that love me and who would be there for me in a drop of a hat, So I think that was a good point that you made. I want to highlight what you said about getting the structure in, because if you don't have a reason to get a structure, you will not get a structure. Right? The reason why you are so adamant about keeping this structure is that you read through Jordan Peterson, or perhaps you came to this revelation before, and that might have confirmed it, but there was a reason to do what you're doing. And if you don't have a reason, like if you're listening to this podcast and you don't have a reason to, like a strong reason that you have conviction about to get up in the morning or to get yourself on a schedule, it doesn't even have to be getting up early. If you don't have a strong enough reason to add structure to your life and to make the most of this moment, you will not do it, because the voice inside of your head, when your alarm goes off in the morning and that voice inside of your head tells you to snooze, if you don't have a strong reason to get up, you are going to go back to sleep. Okay. And I'm speaking out of personal experience, right?
Yeah.
It's funny. I'll try to get on a schedule like that, or like back when I was 21, I tried to get on a schedule like that. And I just couldn't get myself up at 5 a.m. But the second I got a Christmas gig or a gig to play around town and they needed me there at 6 a.m. for rehearsal, I was up at 5 a.m. Right. And it's like, okay, well, what changed? The reason and the rationale for me trying to get up. So you sort of have to, it's a very mature thing to think about. But there are a ton of our kids who could listen to this and think, oh, I need to be doing that as well.
So if you're a student and your school's online, it's being done whenever you get to it, and you don't have a tangible reason for getting up, how do you think a student would figure out how to have a purpose for actually getting their day started properly? I mean, what could they do to
Well,
develop that?
I think the development of it would be just to listen to what we talked about earlier with the ripple effect, which is if you don't add structure to your life in this regard, how can you ever expect to truly establish that later down the road whenever school does open back up, right? Because even when we're in school, we have the kids who show up who look like they got 2 hours of sleep the night before, or we have the kids who are really structured and who actually force themselves to go to bed as opposed to their parents telling them them that they have to do it. I think I think you have to look inward and you have to think, okay, who am I as a human being? That's number one. You have to look inward and you have to say, okay, who do I want to be in my life? You know, obviously, if you live in prosperity, your parents are more than likely successful in one area or another. Um, or if your parents aren't successful in one area or another, you should want to be successful in one area or another. And so you have to look inward. Number two is I have tried to just inundate my kids with the idea that like this is the time to make advancements if you are in some kind of extracurricular activity, right? Even if it's something like weightlifting or it's something like wrestling or dancing or learning how to play an instrument. You have more free time in your day. If you structure your day right, you have more free time in your day than any kid ever has in the history of humanity,
Hmm.
right? So I would look at those two things. I would say, who do I want to be? And then realize what kind of situation slash opportunity you have in front of you to make incredible advancements in your life. And I know this because I've got kids who I haven't mentioned to anybody else, not very many people, but they are getting so good, it's almost unbelievable because they have these extra hours that they're practicing. And they're going to come back to school in August and people are going to be like, who is that?
Right.
Uh, Structure, utilize it. They're not getting up at 2 in the afternoon. They're getting up in the morning. They're getting their stuff done. And then they're prioritizing. I'm sure they have a list like you do. These are the kids who are sending me recordings every single day.
Yeah.
So
I've been keeping, or I've been having my students keep a practice log, which I know that it's probably just drove them nuts, but it's a way to keep accountable
right.
during all this. I have had, well, let's see, and I post how much practice time each kid does each week, so that they know they could see each other and who's many hours.
Is that
I had a kid log 20 hours this last week.
awesome?
A kid at Prosper High School, he logged 20 hours, and then I had two other students who crossed the 15-hour of practice for the week. And then I've got some others that I had one guy who I got all over his business because he logged 10 minutes a day for 4 days that week. And I said, you're fooling yourself. 10 minutes. I mean, how many times in your life have you wasted 10 minutes? Right. And so the reason why I asked that question is that is an insignificant amount of time. And you cannot, I mean, you might as well just not practice at that point.
Yeah, I wouldn't even see the point of that. I mean, perhaps if you're a sixth grader who is just trying to maintain, as a side note, I feel horrible for these sixth graders
Yeah.
because that second semester in particular is when they really start to take off because they're understanding and it's not just Lost World. They've lost that and they are basically behind for as long as they're unwilling to catch themselves back up, which is what we're trying to do with our site. But it's a side point. So
Yeah. Yeah. There's been a lot of interesting stories of teaching through all this. And I had one kid who will go nameless who passed out in the middle of his lesson.
interesting.
And that's because this student was drinking so much soda and so little water
Sorry, that's terrible.
that this person passed out, and it's not, this person does listen to this podcast, and
What did
I
you
am
even?
not there to make fun of this person or anything like that, but that is an example of, um, you got to take care of yourself. You can't just let things stay to chance or just kind of drift by in the wind. You've got to actively do right things, and
Right.
no one's going to sit there and watch over you.
That's kind of wild. Drink water, kids, as I'm drinking a Diet Coke.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
so Darren Hardy has this thing that I wanted to bring up as well. He he calls it avoiding the vortex. And what it is this concept of like in your life, there are things that are like a vortex, which are things that just steal your attention and they hold it and they hold it and they hold it. And for some of my kids, their vortex is trombone, right? And they're the kids who are feel like, wow, how much natural talent they have. It's like, nope, they work way harder than you. So
Right.
for some people, the vortex is obviously video games or Netflix or this, that, and the other. Like for me, I can get on the TV show that I'm currently watching and watch one episode and go, that was cool. I'm going to go do something else now. Some people, if that's your vortex, some people you literally cannot stop doing that. That's how I mean, we often associate addiction with drugs and alcohol and things like that. But addiction can happen for anything, right?
Yeah.
So I would just say be mindful of your vortexes. And if you accompany that with structure, and give yourself, I think it's, I don't know, I'd like to get your thoughts on this, allotting a certain amount of time to be in your quote unquote vortex. So I'm going to give myself an hour and a half to play video games today.
Yeah. You want to feel like you earned it.
Yeah.
And I think there's probably nothing wrong with that. I am an anti-video game person. On the whole, I think they've ruined boys. Um, but but if you've earned the time, then I don't see anything wrong with it.
Right.
The problem with the video games is that they've sucked people into this endless addiction where they can't come out of it.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, and in the problem, you think, I don't play that much. I know of so many people who are playing 12 hours a day. Um, I mean, that's kind of like par for the course for some people. But now that's what's going on here is we talk about purpose and reason. There's no purpose and reason to in some people's brains. Obviously, this is not in our brains, but in some people's brain, there's no purpose or reason to try to march forward because why would you? We have this virus thing. Sorry, there's a squirrel outside. My dog's
ah,
like, so, they're like really they're whining right now. So, but anyway, so I'm trying to think of other points that we can hit.
well, so this might be a real practical thing. I wonder if we could come up with just some bullet point tips for the students that are listening to this. Saying what are some things that they can do to start um, getting the most out of this time, so that that this time is an advantage and not a hindrance.
Yeah.
I mean, I hit some before. Get up, get yourself cleaned up.
Preferably
Um,
before noon.
right.
Right.
Yeah. There is something to having a regular bedtime and a regular wake up time.
Yeah.
Um, what are some things you would add to that list?
So for sure, so my more advanced players, I'm having them start to dive into the world of excerpts, and a lot of people would see this as perhaps something that's like disadvantageous. I don't know why people. I mean, that's what our instruments were originally written for. Whereas orchestral excerpts, obviously, some marching band would be argued early 1900s, but a lot of the repertoire, like if you were a trombone player in the 1940s, your repertoire, like you were super jacked about Richard Strauss coming out with his next tone poem or what have you, right? I mean, that'd be later, but um, they're not. I'm not having them play the hardest thing in the world or something. Obviously, range becomes an issue, but I'm having a lot of them start to dive into excerpts because one, they're challenging. Two, they're more exciting than people even realize. And three, it's a great opportunity for you to work on the exactness and the precision of playing. And a lot of these kids are getting appreciation for good takes. You know what I mean? Like good takes in a recording.
Hmm.
So I'm having them start to work on excerpts.
And so you're having your students record a lot.
Yes,
Yeah,
a
me too.
lot of recording because that way I can show them, hey, I'm not just a mean teacher. Like you're actually playing sharp on this note, or hey, you're actually, not articulating the way that you think you are. And if anybody's listening to this, you do not sound the same on one end of your bell on one side of your bell to the other.
Right.
You need to hear what you sound like on the other side of your bell. I think it'd be fun for kids if they have the means, download the acapella app, uh, to try to play some duets with yourself and see if you can play in tune with yourself.
Yeah, that's a really I mean I started doing some of that myself. It's
Yeah, I saw your Bach
that's a
video.
great app. Yeah, the Bach.
I was like, that's cool. I
Yeah.
think we've both been putting out some stuff.
Yeah, you put out some pretty cool stuff too.
Yeah, it's
And
fun.
it's not like this, I mean, it's not like these things are making us money, but it's something that you're like, well, this would be kind of a fun project to work on, and then you get better in the process. And
And people really enjoy that stuff.
yeah,
Like we are in the music world, we live in the music world, we work in the music world. So we see stuff like that, we go, yeah, but when people who used to be teachers when I was at Bell High School comment, they're like, oh my gosh, that gave me so much joy.
yeah,
That's basically the main reason why we're learning to play instruments, is to entertain people and to bring them joy and happiness,
hmm,
right? So I would take all those projects that you've always wanted to work on and you've always told yourself, man, if I just had the time. Well, now you do. So
yeah,
I would really, 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 really be going to excerpts, try to record ensembles with yourself. um and if you have questions on how to do that, I just start with the lowest voice and then perhaps
yeah. That's how I do it.
yeah, okay, lowest voice up to the top, or I do lowest. Sometimes I'll do lowest and then the highest and then work the two in between. But yeah, what would you have them do to, besides maintaining a structure, what would you have them do?
Well, so I'm gonna give some non-music things.
Great.
Um, I think it would be a good idea to read a good book during this.
What's a good
Um,
book?
well, something. Well, I would read something that is for enjoyment. It doesn't have to be fiction or nonfiction. I mean, it would be one of the two, but it doesn't have to be either or.
Right.
But find something that's good and read a book, and you're getting away from the boob tube, and um, you're engaging your brain and reading. I've read a couple books so far this since the quarantine started. I just finished Anne of Green Gables, which is kind of a girl's classic book, but I've never read it, so I was like, well, shoot, I'll read it. And
Right.
I'm gonna go to a Shakespeare play here pretty soon. Um, and I'm not saying that that's what people need to read. It's just I was interested, so I'm gonna read it.
What's interesting
Um,
about the whole reading thing, is I've had so many people say, well, I don't like reading. I'm not a big reader. Human beings do whatever we are doing habitually.
yeah,
We are constantly programming ourselves. So you can say all you want that I'm not a big reader, I don't enjoy it. Well, if you do it enough, as in force yourself to go to the gym enough, or you force yourself to eat right enough, it becomes easier, right? It's like Darren Hardy talks about spinning the flywheel. It takes a ton of effort. This big metal flywheel, it takes a ton of effort to get it moving at first, but eventually it just goes
yeah,
with minimal effort. Now you have to upkeep it. That's what we're doing. So don't tell yourself you're not a reader. You just haven't formed the habit yet.
yeah.
I would say that as words of encouragement if you're saying to yourself, well, I'm not really a reader, because it's wonderful. There's so much wonderful material out there. Um,
And it doesn't need to be heavy. I mean, I just read something. In fact, I have some suggestions. Um, the Harry Potter series would be good. Those are very well written if you haven't read those. It's tough for me to recommend. I'm looking at books over here, so it's tough. It's tough for me to recommend stuff for girls. I hear Anne of Green Gables is good for girls. I found it delightful, but it didn't really speak to me much.
Jane Eyre,
Um,
if
yeah, I mean, you could read Pride and Prejudice.
pretty heavy,
That's
but
pretty good. For boys, Man, if you haven't read Lord of the Rings, that series, it's great. The Hobbit, um, the Mark Twain books, whether it's Tom Sawyer or Huck Finn. Um, there's one by an author named Ralph Moody called Little Britches. Those are phenomenal books. Um, but yeah, I mean, get into a book. Try to
Yeah.
read a book. Try to read a book. Um, so that's one thing that I would recommend. Another thing that I would recommend is try to find some good to do every day, and
How'd you go
whether
about
it's
doing that?
what's that?
How'd you go about doing that?
Well, I mean, if you want to help a parent out, if you want to
Cash
find
App.
it
How about-
right, if you want to find something that you've been meaning to do, and you can go do it, or if you can help someone, just find something that you would consider good
and
and
part of that is
try to do it.
having your eyes open and having
Hmm.
the RA, the reticular activating system is just this thing that you tell yourself in your brain that's important. So if you turn your brain on to I'm going to help somebody today, your brain automatically starts to look for things that will allow you to help them. So you'll see, dishes in the sink, and you'll see your mom who's stressed out because she's literally watching kids full time now, or where she's used to having a sort of quasi break. And you see dishes in the sink, and you just go wash them.
Hmm.
Or you see a dirty floor, or you see, I don't know, anything. I would say I'm going to add on to that as well. Um, Exercise. You're not like people aren't even walking anymore. So you used to have to walk from your car to the school and then between classes, and now you're probably on your bum for however long per day. So it's important to go outside, get some sunlight, get some sunrise up on your face. It's good for you that way. I would say,
And that's good for your immunity too, because you get
right.
vitamin D from the sun.
Yes. And apparently the virus does not last very long in the sun.
Right.
So, um, besides that, I'm trying to think of other stuff. I don't have anything else really.
Yeah, I mean, there's just something to um, finding something to take responsibility for.
Yep.
I
That's
mean,
the big thing. Yes.
that's one of the best things to defeat depression out there is to take responsibility for something. And I could say, you should take responsibility for your life, but that for some people that might be a little heavy because there's some people that have slipped into like my life is kind of meaningless right now.
Right.
But just care for your dog, or maybe start cleaning the kitchen, or just take something to be responsible for.
Yeah, the first chapter of that book is, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like make your bed.
Oh,
The-
from the book we talked about,
yeah.
that's stand up straight with your shoulders back.
Oh, I'm thinking of the Navy officer that has that one video. It's very emotional, or it's very it's kind of like those Facebook videos where they have the words on the bottom and like there's like outlines and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Um, he talks about why it's important to make your bed, which is so like if you're a future educator, you have to start thinking of why things are important rather than just saying you need to do this, because people don't operate like that anymore. I've heard it all the way from parents to hockey coaches. They have to talk to the players, professional players. They have to talk to differently because people need reasons why. So when you say make your bed, you can't just say make your bed. You have to say you have to make your bed because that's a task that you conquer to start your day. So that causes a ripple effect throughout your day of when you come across a task, the first thought isn't, oh my gosh, I won't be able to do this. It's I can do this. Why? Because you started the ripple effect this morning with making your bed, and you created the habit of talking to your brain, because when you wake up in the morning, the last thing you want to do is what? Make your bed. So it's like doing that and kind of conquering your brain. Tony Robbins does an ice bath every single morning because he doesn't want to do it. He's in 25 years, he said he's never wanted to do it,
Mm.
but he does
Yeah.
it because he wants to start out conquering his brain. Right.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so we're going to start doing regular Friday talks, regular Friday podcasts. Hopefully next week we'll have some Prosper High School directors back with us. Is that right?
Yeah. Some sort of guest. And now that we've discovered the magic of Zoom, it should be pretty easy to be able to have multiple people on here. We might be able to have like a televised party. It'd be kind of fun.
Parties with us would be crazy.
Yeah, yeah. If anyone has any questions or anything that they would like for us to ask, because now we're kind of getting into this digital podcasting deal. You can send in a video of you asking the question. We can post it on here. You can actually have your face come up on the podcast, and we'd be happy to address that. You can email us. It's just prstofmusic@gmail.com, or you can go to Facebook and comment on one of our posts there. We've gone a little while without doing a podcast episode because, quite honestly, we've all just gotten busy with life.
Yeah, life is
And Ben and I felt like this was a good time to re-engage and get back at it.
So I've got a question that one of my students just asked me.
Oh, really?
Yep, he shall go nameless. He says, "Hey, for the audition music, do we have to play full tempo or can we go slower?" Love it.
That's an easy question to answer. Do you want to answer that one, or you want me to?
Or give me death.
Right.
Go as fast as you can play the music beautifully.
That is exactly the answer. Slow and clean is always better than fast and sloppy.
Ooh, I will say this too, and I've been kind of making this point to my kiddos as well, is in an audition, if you're given options, as you are in your audition, if you're a Prosper High School student or a Rock Hill High School student,
right?
It says you only have to play the theme, but you don't have to play all three variations. And what I've been telling my students is, who have been asking me how many variations should I play, and I say all of them, because if you play variation 3 at half tempo or quarter tempo, you will get some points. And the question is, how many points do you get if you don't play variation 3 at all? 0. So
Right.
don't leave any points on the table.
Yeah.
Right? Get the theme down, get variation 1 down, it's just scales, get variation 2 down, and then on the skippy part of variation 3, just go as fast as you can play it, because you'll still at least gather some points.
Yeah.
And this is the audition that determines where you sit for the rest of the year, so if it happens. So
right.
So anyways, as far as camp goes, we're still TBD. So we are waiting to hear back what admin says about building accessibility. Had a lot of people reaching out to me about what's going on at camp this year, and we would like to know as well.
So. Yes. Yeah. We have a lot of things figured out. We've got a great guest artist booked, and we've got all sorts of things. I have 100 posters in my house with nowhere to put them, so it's we're kind of on hold. So.
Well, press onward and press forward, because life will go on after this.
Yep.
So hopefully you are in the middle of a positive momentum swing, as opposed to having to spin that flywheel, so to speak. As always, we appreciate your listenership. We still have people downloading our podcasts every week. I'm like,
that's awesome.
Are you listening to us?
Yeah. All right. Well, so I guess we should sign out.
Yep. Sayonara.